Hello, Virgo. I'm Anna, and welcome back to your space. Wherever you are right now, whatever this week has looked like, whatever you've been carrying quietly, I'm glad you're here. This one is going to hit differently. Uh, so, Virgo, stay with me. They pulled back deliberately, strategically, with the specific intention of watching what you do next. Um, because that's what a test looks like when it's dressed up as distance. It looks like someone suddenly becoming unavailable, suddenly going cool, suddenly creating just enough silence to make you question yourself, to make you reach, to make you perform the very desperation that would confirm for them that they hold the power in this dynamic. And you didn't reach. Um, you stood exactly where you were. Um, and now they don't know what to do with that. Good. Let's talk about what that decision, that one quiet, almost invisible decision to not chase, might actually be unlocking for you right now. Because the energy around this situation isn't just about them being confused. It's about what becomes possible for you on the other side of a choice like that. And what's on the other side might be more significant than you're currently allowing yourself to believe. Here's the first thing: what is coming is better than what has gone. And I need you to receive that not as a consolation prize, not as the thing people say when they want you to feel better about a loss, um, but as a structural, psychological, almost mathematical reality based on what you just did. Because what walked out or pulled back or ran its little test and got a result it wasn't prepared for, um, was costing you something you may not have fully tallied yet. Not just emotionally, energetically, the specific non renewable energy of someone who is constantly monitoring another person's temperature in adjusting, recalibrating, reading between lines that shouldn't have had anything hidden in them in the first place. Shrinking here, expanding there, trying to find the exact shape that would make this person consistently choose you without you having to ask them to. That labor, invisible, daily, quietly exhausting, is now freed. And freed energy doesn't sit still. It moves, it redirects, it finds new containers. Uh, and the containers it might be moving toward now, the connections, the opportunities, the version of your daily life that becomes available when you're not spending your best hours managing someone else's ego, are built on a completely different foundation than what just left. What left was drawn to the version of you that was still operating from the fear of loss, still carrying somewhere underneath everything the belief that this particular connection was the thing standing between you and feeling okay. And what's coming, what might already be assembling itself just outside your current field of vision, um, is drawn to the version of you that just demonstrated through action rather than declaration that you are okay. That okay lives inside you and travels with you, that it is not housed in any external person, dynamic, or outcome. those two versions of you attract categorically different experiences. And you just switch tracks quietly, without announcement, by simply standing still when everything in you might have wanted to run. This reflection invites you to consider, what specifically have you been carrying that belong to that dynamic and not to you? What thoughts, what recurring anxieties, what late night questions have been living in your mind because of this situation? And what becomes available in that mental space now that you're no longer feeding it? Because that space isn't empty, it never was. It's potential that was temporarily occupied, and potential redirected intentionally produces things that a mind stretched thin by monitoring could never have accessed. Uh, and here is where it gets interesting, because the shift that just happened, the door that just closed, the energy that just came back to you, it isn't the end of something as much as it might feel like one right now. It's a clearing. And clearings, in the context of a life that's genuinely moving forward, tend to precede arrivals. The best is yet to come. Um, and I want to be specific about what that might mean, because vague optimism isn't useful and you deserve something more precise than that. The best isn't just a better version of what just left. It's not the same dynamic with a softer edge, the same push pull with slightly less distance, the same test administered a little more gently. That's not the best. That's a revision of something that was already structurally unsound. The best, what might actually be building toward you now, looks like a connection where nobody is running tests, um, where interest is expressed directly rather than measured through strategic withdrawal, where your consistency isn't something being evaluated for leverage, it's something being matched, where you don't spend the first 20 minutes after every interaction trying to decode what just happened and what it means and whether you're okay, where you just know because the information is clean, because the communication is honest, because the person across from you isn't playing a game that requires you to lose something to participate. Uh, that kind of connection exists. It is not naive to want it. It is not unrealistic to expect it. And crucially, it tends not to find people who are already fully allocated to dynamics that require management. It finds people with space, with availability, with the specific gravitational pull of someone who knows what they want and has demonstrated through real behavior in real situations that they will not accept less. You just demonstrated that. And the best might be clocking it from wherever it currently is. But let's also talk about what the best looks like beyond the relational. Because this isn't only a love reading, this is a life reading. And the energy that's been freed up by this decision doesn't only flow toward new connections, it flows toward everything. Toward the project you've been half starting because you were too drained to commit to it fully, toward the version of your career or your creative life or your daily routine that you kept putting off because you were emotionally occupied, toward the friendships you've been slightly neglecting because so much of your internal bandwidth was tied up in decoding one person's behavior. all of that, every single corner of your life that was receiving your partial presence because this dynamic was eating the rest is now available to receive your full one. And full presence applied consistently to the things that actually matter to you compounds. Um, it builds, it produces results that feel almost disproportionate to the effort because the effort is finally going somewhere it can actually land. The best is yet to come, and it might arrive faster than you expect, precisely because you stopped blocking the road with something that was never going to take you where you actually wanted to go. This reflection invites you to consider, what does the best actually look like for you? Not in the abstract, specifically, concretely. Um, what does a morning feel like when it's not been preceded by a night of anxious decoding? Uh, what does a connection feel like when the baseline is ease rather than management? What does your own life feel like when the majority of your energy is circulating through it rather than being siphoned out of it by something that was never fully reciprocal? Name it. Get specific. Because specificity is what allows you to recognize the thing when it actually arrives, rather than being so conditioned to complexity that simplicity feels like something must be wrong. Uh, and now, here is where I need you to fully expand your thinking. Because the mistake most people make at this exact moment, right after they've done something as quietly courageous as refusing to chase, is that they immediately start to narrow. Uh, they start thinking in terms of this situation resolving, or this person coming back, or this specific outcome being the one that validates the decision they just made. They trade one fixation for another. And in doing so, they accidentally recreate the same scarcity mindset that was keeping them stuck, just with different content. Everything is possible. Everything. Um, Not as a motivational poster, as a literal description of the position you're standing in right now. You are not mid chase with no exit. You are not 3 months deep into a pattern that would cost equal energy to unwind. You are not waiting for one specific person to make one specific decision that determines whether your life gets to move forward. You are standing at a completely open intersection, all directions live, all options available, no road already chosen for you by a momentum you didn't consent to. That is an extraordinary place to be standing. And most people only recognize it in retrospect, looking back from somewhere better, realizing that the moment everything opened up was the moment they stopped chasing something that was running. You get to recognize it now in real time while the intersection is still fully open. Uh, which means the choices you make from this point about where you invest your attention, your energy, your openness carry a particular kind of weight. Not the heavy weight of obligation, the electric weight of genuine possibility of someone who could go any direction and knows it. And that knowledge, really knowing it in the bones, not just intellectually, changes how you walk into rooms, how you hold conversations, how you respond to opportunity when it comes. It changes the frequency you broadcast and therefore what responds to it. Uh, because people who operate from genuine possibility, not performed possibility, not forced optimism, but the real thing that comes from having actually released a false ceiling. They move differently. They're less reactive, less easily destabilized, less willing to compress themselves into whatever shape a situation demands because they know at a level beneath thought that other situations exist. Better ones, more aligned ones, ones that don't require compression. You might be stepping into that movement right now. And the width of what becomes available to you in that movement, professionally, relationally, creatively, personally, might genuinely surprise you if you let it. If you resist the pull to immediately re-narrow the focus onto one person or one outcome or one specific form of resolution, stay wide, stay open, um, let everything be possible, because right now it actually is. This reflection invites you to consider, where have you been thinking too small? Not in this situation specifically in your life, broadly. What possibility have you been treating as unrealistic that might only have seemed unrealistic because you were operating from a contracted, anxious, everything depends on this one thing place? What opens up when you expand the frame, not just around this situation, but around everything? What becomes available to someone who genuinely believes that all directions are live? And then the last thing, the most important thing, um, the one that ties every piece of this together into something you can actually carry forward. Um, Make yourself proud, not them, not the people watching, not the version of you that performs confidence for an audience. Yourself, the one who knows exactly what happened here, who knows what it cost to stand still, who knows how loud the chase instinct was and how deliberately you overrode it. That person, the internal witness to everything you just navigated, deserves to hear from you that you see it, that you recognize what just happened as significant, not lucky, not accidental, not something that happened to you, something you chose consciously at a moment when the easier path was to perform availability and call it love. Making yourself proud right now means building the internal narrative correctly around this moment. Because the story you tell yourself about what just happened will determine whether this becomes a pattern or remains an exception. Um, if you tell yourself, it was luck, I just happened not to care enough this time, I don't know why I didn't reach, it stays fragile, unrepeatable. A thing that happened once without a foundation strong enough to support it happening again. But if you tell yourself the truth, I saw the test. I understood what was being asked of me. I chose my own dignity over their comfort with a dynamic that required my smallness to function. And I did that not because I didn't care, but because I cared about myself enough to refuse to audition for someone who should have already known my value. that becomes a precedent. A data point in your own personal history and evidence of who you are when you're operating from your highest self rather than your most frightened one. And precedents compound. The next time a test assembles itself, and there will be a next time in a different form with a different face, you'll have this moment to reference, this proof that you've done it before, that you can do it again. Um, that standing still in the face of manufactured distance is not beyond you, it is actually deeply structurally you. Make yourself proud by keeping that standard, not as rigidity, not as a wall that keeps everyone out equally, but as discernment, as the specific, well calibrated ability to tell the difference between someone who needs time and someone who is using time as a weapon, between vulnerability and strategy, between a genuine moment of someone pulling back to process, um, and a deliberate withdrawal designed to see what you'll do when they make themselves scarce. You know the difference now. You demonstrated it. And that knowledge, lived, embodied, proven through actual behavior in an actual moment, is yours permanently. Nobody can test it back out of you. Nobody can manufacture enough distance to make you forget what you just learned about yourself. Because what you just learned is this: you are someone who chooses themselves, um, even when it's hard, even when the instinct screams otherwise, even when the person on the other side of the test is someone you genuinely cared about and some part of you wanted to chase. Not because you didn't feel the pull, but because you felt it and chose anyway. That is not a small thing. That is possibly the single most self respecting thing a person can do in the context of connection. Um, Refuse to perform desperation on demand. And you did it. So walk forward from this moment, making choices that match it. Invest your energy in the things and people that don't require you to earn your place through pursuit. Um, Show up fully for the version of your life that's been quietly waiting for your full attention. Let what's coming find you, not mid chase, not breathless and slightly diminished from running, but standing, grounded, whole, exactly where you are, exactly as you are. Um, because that version of you, the standing, grounded, chose herself version, is the one what's coming is looking for. Um, the power is yours. Um, it always has been. Take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Tell me in the comments, what was the exact moment you realized you weren't going to chase this time? Something shifted. I want to know what it was. And what's the one thing you're now doing with the energy you got back? Drop it below. Make it real. Take care of yourself. Genuinely. You earned this peace. Don't give it back. See you in the next one.